And good evening. Happy Saturday, November 21st, 2020. We are streaming live at 10 p.m. Central. If you can, give me a thumbs up and let me know in the comments if you can hear me. So I've been working on adjusting the audio to try to block out as much background noise as possible. Let me know. Give me a thumbs up and let me know over in the chat. Also, I would like to thank Lenovo for providing this machine that we're using to do the live streaming. And yeah, so Nathan says he likes the hat. My wife actually bought this for me when we were in Mexico. And I've been wearing a ball cap all day, and my hair's a wreck. So decided to throw the hat on. Hasn't been worn in a while. So all right. So I hope you've got a beverage of your choice. I am drinking Pabst Blue Ribbon hard coffee, and it is excellent. All right. So I had planned on using this new headset that I bought. I'm going to start using this to record videos because it has less of a chance of getting muffled like a lapel. I like to move around, use my hands, but I could not get this working quickly tonight with the Rodecaster Pro. So I got to figure out what's going on with that. So I'm hoping when I plug this into the other, my camera that I record with, I'm hoping that it picks right off. So let's see. Yeah, PBR. So this is not the original PBR. This is hard coffee. So this is alcoholic coffee, David, and it's actually pretty decent. So Greg is saying that the level is low. Let me turn it up a little bit. However, there are some noises around me that I'm trying to block out. Like I hear a kid jumping on a bed. I'm like 99% sure that that's what's happening. All right, turn it up a little bit. How's that? Let's see. How's that? Is that a lot better? Also probably help if I move the mic and talk directly. All right. How is that? Is that better? Everybody? Somebody let me know. I want to be talking if it's too loud. Hey, Joe from Cajoling Technologies is in the house. And if you all didn't see our live stream last week, we had the Tech Quartet. It was Joe with Cajoling Technologies, Unky Joe from Unky Joe's Playhouse, Tony from Quick Tech Solutions, and if you follow me on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and all that, you'll see that Tony sent us all a hat. And Joe was there. I was there. We had a great time. I'm trying to turn this into something a little bit more regular. I'm hoping the guys will entertain me there. Also looking to add other social media based IT people, and even IT people who don't have a big social presence. We want to try to add them into the group. And yeah. So hey, Clarence Christensen is with us tonight. All right. So a couple things. Probably you saw the UniFi Security was in the title, and you're probably wondering what that's about. So we're going to get to that. But first, before we flip over to the computer, I want to talk about /dev/mount. And I posted a picture of this a while ago, but if you have racks, which by the way, also in the comments, do you like the evening time for the live stream better, or do you prefer the mornings? Put that in the chat. Make sure you're giving me a thumbs up. It lets the YouTube algorithm know that you're interested in the content. And if you're seeing ads, that's YouTube collecting their syntax. Is definitely not me. But anyway, this is a /dev/mount. And if you're wondering what this is what I believe is probably the best rack mount solution right now. The best stud, nut, whatever you want to call it. That sounded kind of funny, but the best, let me show you what I mean. So if you've got a rack that uses cage nuts, and I'm going to do a whole video, and the video is probably going to go exactly about what I'm getting ready to do here. But if you are used to cage nuts of old, you remember these? They kill your fingers, and they go in the rack, and then you've got the screw that screws into it. And there is the cage nut with the screw in it, right? So then somebody got the bright idea that they could do it a little bit better, and that was rack studs. And so rack studs came out with this. You know, they're on version 2 of these now, but the premise of this is you stick this in the square hole. It's got this little yellow piece of plastic that locks it in place, and then you use the nut here, and you tighten the equipment down. Now, the reason that I really like the rack studs is because you can put these in, and then you can put a piece of equipment in, less than 50 pounds, put a piece of equipment in, and you can hold it with one hand, so one person could easily rack mount equipment using the rack studs. Then Chatworth Products got a hold of me, and they said, well, if you love that stuff, you're going to love click nuts. So they use what appears to be a traditional cage nut, but they've got this other part here that you pinch, and this allows you to just easily put this in the rail, and then it works identical to a cage nut, except you're not blowing your fingers up, right? You've got this right here. Well, what Patchbox did, if you're not familiar with Patchbox, check them out, is I think they said, well, I think we can have the best of both worlds, right? So we can get away from the nylon, we can go back to metal, and this is what they came up with, and I am loving these, right? So I'm going to do a full video, installation video, but at the end of the day, what happens is these two studs slide through the square holes. You use this part right here, and it snaps into place and holds this in. And then you'll have 4 studs, and then it's got the metal nut, and it goes on here like this, and this is beautiful. Now I love rack studs. I like the click nuts too, don't get me wrong. But this kind of just took this to a new level. And of course, there's people out there that'll say, well, I only use pre-drilled and tapped racks. That's good for you. But a lot of us don't. A lot of us use, racks with the square rails. It just works out a lot better for us. So, yeah, it is a great looking rack mount system. So I'm going to do a close up. I'm going to use the new headset so I can just hold on to the camera and do a lot of talking and a lot of hands-on. But yeah, this thing is great. So now anybody can go out and request a sample of these. They do provide samples. I went out to the Patchbox website, went to the /dev/mount, found the US partner, and then filled out a form online. And at no charge, they sent me a demo kit, which includes 2 sets. So it's not just 2 of these, it's 2 sets. So you get 4 of these, and then you would get 8 of the nuts that go on there. And it is beautiful. By the way, I have 2 racks here that are pre-drilled. One of them's an old Telco rack. It actually used to be tall. The guy I bought it from, I've got a sneaking suspicion that they used a Sawzall and they cut it off to be half height. Basically because there's cut marks on the top of it, right? So that's what led me to believe that. And the holes are all screwed up. Some of this equipment must have had different size holes or whatever. But then I've got another rack that is a trip-light rack, and it's a little bit better, but I still prefer the square holes. So, all right, let's go to the comments. Bob Carpenter says, those things are like Legos for adults. They still hurt like hell when you step on them in your bare feet in your home, lad. Yeah, they sure do. And Greg Howell says, you introduced these to me a few months ago, and they saved me so much time. I can highly recommend. And I don't know if he was talking about the rack studs at that time. So here's the thing. Yeah, so I spent a lot of time on the phone with Chatsworth because after they saw me talking about the rack studs, they really wanted to talk about the click nuts. And I think the click nuts, like if you're going to use just almost a standard cage nut, you know, don't use the ones that every manufacturer ships with their equipment. If you're going to use a standard cage nut because you're worried about whatever, go with the Chatsworth. Now the Chatsworth has the same, they use all the physics terms and stuff, the same seismic load as a standard rack, as a standard cage nut. It tells you on the package for the rack studs, it's 40 or 50 pounds. Can somebody verify that for me real quick? But you're not supposed to use these on equipment over 40 or 50 pounds. I don't know what the weight limit on these are, what on the /dev/mount's going to be, but this thing is beefy. This thing is tough. It's all metal construction. If you're going to make one of these fail, you're going to work at making this fail. This is not, you know, I've not seen rack studs fail. You know, I have seen cheaper cage nuts. The metal get all bent and they just become garbage, you know. So, you know, I think I've got my 3 go-tos, and I think I'm going to start carrying all 3 of them, you know, in the bag, right? Because I will tell you that the /dev/mount, like if you've got equipment that is stacked on top of each other, or if you've got equipment that goes right out to the inside of the rails at whatever that measurement is, and I'm going to go over that in the video, that it went in and it worked. There was just a little bit of rubbing, so I'm assuming on this new switch maybe some of the paint got scratched on the side, but I don't think that's such a big deal, and maybe it didn't, because there's not really anything sharp once this is locked in. And I was at a weird angle and it was late, so who knows. But I'm gonna do a video, so we'll pull the equipment out and take a look. But if you should go out and you should find the in fact, let's switch over to the web real quick so you can see it's patchbox.com/dev/mount, and yeah, so it tells you that conventional cage nuts have a sharp, unsafe, serrated edge. You can get them in a 50-pack, and it is compatible with 19-inch rails. It really does. It works. And look, they're in use at Walt Disney, Hilton, Epic Games, Internet Archive. They got some big players using their stuff. So definitely check it out. Go get your own free sample kit, 4 of them, and make your own judgment. I mean, like I said, they reached out, or they responded to me and sent those over at no charge. So, all right, let's see here. Bob says, far better than someone riveting something into a rack. Yeah, I've seen that too back at telco racks. Telco racks are a mess. Yeah, I think the vinyl, Greg Howell, it's either 40 or 50 pounds. Yeah, 44 pounds. So Bob Carpenter found the actual spec from the rack stud website. He put it in the chats, 44 pounds. So, all right, what else are we going to talk about tonight? So, this last week, I sat in a webinar put on by an insurance company. So, it was an insurance company, it was someone who had been ransomed, and then it was a law firm that handles a lot of the stuff that goes along with that. So, what I'd like to say first of all, is I was actually kind of disappointed in the webinar. They didn't go, to me, it felt very like laissez-faire, like, who cares if you get ransomed? Insurance will pay for it. And that's not really the way that we should be approaching these things. The lawyers don't care, right? Because the lawyers are going to get paid. There's a couple things that are guaranteed in life. One of them is the lawyers will always get their 20%, right? So, if you're in business, you should definitely check with your insurance company and see if they've got cyber insurance, cyber liability, data breach. Now, that being said, do I think it's a good idea to negotiate with people who ransom you? No, I don't think that that's a great idea. What we should be talking about is the prevention, right? The ounce of prevention. That ounce of prevention is worth 2 pounds of cure. Isn't that the saying? I think something like that. Or an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Something. Anyway, it's much cheaper for everybody if we do it up front, if we design our backups, our networks properly. And it doesn't take a lot of money. That's the thing, right? You have a lot of vendors that charge a lot of money for this, and it's really not something that is super expensive or needs to be super expensive. If you want to make sure that your backups, that you've got multi-version backups and that you're taking snapshots hourly, 4 times an hour or whatever, you can either use Synology or you can use QNAP. Those are 2 products right there off the top. They're going to allow you to have multi-version backups and snapshots on the regular. And then, yeah, it would suck if you get ransomed, right? But if you've got that infrastructure in place, you're probably going to be able to roll back and be in a really good place. And that's why I was super disappointed that they were basically saying, yeah, you're going to get ransomed, and this is how it's going to have to go down, and you've got to get the lawyers involved, and then there's, attorney-client privilege. And for me, some of it was kind of like an advertisement for a law firm. And the lawyers really seemed to know their stuff. At least they knew the buzzwords, and they knew some technical terms and how some things worked. How much of that came from experience and how much of it came from, study or hands-on or whatever, I don't know. But the point is if I'm your insurance company, I would provide to you a framework before I even insured you for this, right? I would have this framework, and I would say, okay, customer who wants cyber liability insurance, here's our framework for protecting your data. We're going to send an auditor out, and we're going to go through these things. If you don't do these things, I'm not going to insure you because you're high risk, because you're not taking this serious. And it is serious business. And the reason that it's serious business is because these folks with the ransomware are making a lot of money. And a lot of times these insurance companies are paying off. I would not just sell somebody a policy. Maybe I should start my own insurance company, and you use my framework, and then we pay out if there's a problem, if the auditor has signed off, and we do periodic checks and stuff like that. The thing is, we should be working on prevention. In 2020, with the low cost of equipment, whether it's Synology, QNAP, edge routers, name a router, right? Don't have RDP open. They talked about the RDP problem, and with RDP being brute force and stuff like that. So they've probably seen a thing or two, right? So like if you've ever seen the farmers commercial, like, yeah, RDP incident of 82, covered it. We've seen it or whatever, like if it were me, I would not just be carte blanche insuring people. I would give them the tools to help try to ensure that they're doing the right things. Because there's a lot of people, I think, that are going to run reckless if they think that their insurance is just going to pay out. And I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Somebody, hop into the comments and, let me know. Yeah, so Bob Carpenter says, who cares if you get your ransomware? Your customers sure do. Yeah. So think about if you get ransomed, think about the brand reputation damage. Think about the lawsuits that can come, and now with information actually being stolen, with them leaving your network with sensitive information before they encrypt it. And now they're holding customer records hostage. Now the lawsuits, and every state and every jurisdiction handles this differently, and their laws are a little different. And that means disclosure is different. So you really got to understand what's going on. Otherwise, you can end up in deeper trouble. And that is something you definitely don't want to do. And it is much, much, much easier to just do a little bit of work up front instead of paying the ransom in the end. That's all I'm saying. So I don't know if anybody here has any experience with that, but that was kind of like, it was kind of like just a big sales pitch to me. And I was, they had some good information, but I was still kind of turned off by that. Okay. Next thing I want to talk about is the Google VPN. So this has been, Google released this and it's been making its rounds and everything. Tell me in the comments, what do you think about a Google VPN? I'm not 100% sure that I trust it. I almost think that Google would hand your information over with, here's a result from search. So, yeah, that's going to turn that off on my phone. But I really think that they would probably hand your information over to the federal government, state government, pretty easy. So I don't know if I trust it yet. Is anybody using it? Let's go to the chat. Is anybody using the Google VPN? What is your thought on that? Yeah, so Joe from Cajoling Tech says, spend money on hardening instead of insurance on Swiss cheese. That's exactly right, Joe. And and Bob says, or worse, sorry, Joe, but to have to retrieve multiple terabytes of data from your AWS backup. Ooh. But there's Bezos rubbing his hands going, I'm buying another Ferrari. Because you got ransomed and now you got to pull all that information off the cloud. David G says, Google VPN, LOL, no way. And then asks, have you read the terms of service and see what they hand over? No, I have not. Roger says, not likely. Hey, it's Google. So, oh man. Google is going crazy on my phone tonight. I'm going to have to turn that off. Yeah, so we all like to give Joe a hard time.
To turn off your phone, press and hold the power button, then tap power off. To learn how to turn me off, tap turn off Google Assistant.
All right.
What can I help you with? For example, you could say open settings or connect to Wi-Fi. Or for info on specific problems, pick an option below.
We can't say the G word anymore. She's worse than Alexa. So, Odie says, hey, Odie Lofton, how you been, buddy? I can't think of anything more stupid than trying Google VPN. They already have all your information anyway. Yes, so as someone who's been in that Google ecosystem for many, many years, and now I'm trying to start distancing that and running on my own platform, it is very difficult. So, but it can be done. It can be done. It can be done. I've got a couple of clients that we've switched off of G Suite, and they are completely running on Synology on-prem. They've got offsite backups that may or may not go to AWS, but they're encrypted with our encryption keys so that Bezos can't peer inside the files. Joe, do you hear me? No peering in the files. And yeah, so, and that is actually the path that I'm on. And you can do it relatively inexpensively, and you can do it securely, and you can also do it. I'm crafting my plan for doing it without a redundant internet connection, because I think it's going to be a while before I have a diverse path into the house. So, let's see. So, back to the comments real quick. Yeah, Bob says Google has way too many hooks into your data, your system. Your VPN would be pretty easily exposed if they wanted it. and private internet access for me. Thank you very much. So I am a PIA, or I was a PIA affiliate. They actually sent me an email saying that since I hadn't done any videos, even though I had the links in the videos, because I hadn't done any recent videos, that they were going to terminate my affiliate ship with them. Shit. I guess it is an affiliate shit at this point, right? But they were going to terminate my affiliate ship with them. So, I guess that is what it is, and we'll see how it goes. I don't know if anybody's used that link or not. Now, I'm going to probably butcher your name, so I'm looking at the comments, and so I'm sorry up front if I butcher your name. I don't know, is it Hani or Haney? Says Edge Router, what is the new command for factory SSH as per last firmware 2.0.9? So, if you haven't seen, there is a new version, supposed to be a stable version, of Edge OS out for the Edge Router. Now, I haven't tested it because the 2.0 set of firmware had a bug in it that it reduced your speed, and it had some real speed issues. So we hadn't been recommending that. We've been staying on that 1.10. So I'm going to have to go check that out. So Zach N says, best VPN is your own VPN server. Sure, not the big G word. Yeah. And I probably wouldn't build it on the big A word either, right? Probably do it on like a DigitalOcean, Vultr, Linode, something like that. Choose a nice, safe country like Switzerland and build my VPN over there. All right. So, glad to know that we're all on the same page with that. So we looked at the /dev/mount. Now, one thing I would like to talk about is you will oftentimes hear vendors talk trash about a product that, they don't represent, or they because somebody else represents them, they hate the product, or they really don't understand the technology, so they hate the product. It could be all kinds of reasons that people are haters, right? But one thing that kind of came up to me is after Grandstream had a security vulnerability, and they notified everybody, and it was not good, right? Like, people could make remote calls to your system. And like, first of all, why are you exposing your admin interface to the internet? That's not good anyway. But, I was, FreePBX has had its share of security vulnerabilities. And if you look this year, they've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 so far this year. And FreePBX also was just in the news. There were 1,200 servers where, companies were being hacked and you can make calls and stuff like that. So, I don't personally touch the FreePBX stuff. If you've seen James, or you've worked with us and you've talked to James, James does all of our FreePBX stuff, and he's excellent. He's probably the best FreePBX technician that I know. And I know a couple, and he's fantastic. So he handles all that stuff. So we do it, but it's not, I'm a Grandstream certified expert. I'm one of a handful of those in North America. So I concentrate on the Grandstream side of that, and it's going really well so far this year. But there is another product that we're looking at. James has kind of urged me to look at Vital PBX. So we're going to be giving this a shot. We're going to be experimenting with it. It's not saying that we're going to be pushing it, but we are going to download it. We're going to, play around with it. If anybody's used Vital, put that in the comments, would you? Speaking of the comments, let's go back to the comments. Let's see here. Joe says he's a big fan of Proton Mail and Proton VPN. No logs, great smaller company out of Switzerland. Been using them for years for encrypted email. Yeah, Proton seems to be pretty good. Gibby asks, what do you think of the Unify app? Well, I use it when I want to turn devices on and off. I mean, I think it's okay. I don't think there's any problem with it. However, I don't know if any of you have noticed this, and I'm going to try to show you this. I don't have my screen mirror thing on here, but I went to open my UNMS app the other day. Let me find it. So I went to open my UNMS app, and lo and behold, bear with me, UNMS is now called UISP. I don't know if you can see that or not. It is now called UISP. And it kind of took me off guard because it must have updated. And there it is right there. Must have updated, and I didn't even notice it. And I was trying to get into UNMS, and up pops UISP. So that's kind of cool. I'm going to be messing around with it, a little bit more. I'm thoroughly testing some devices. I've got customers who are using UNMS, so got to make sure that we use the products and we understand how they work. All right, so back to the comments. Bird 203, and I think Bird, you've been around for a while, I think. But Bird says, I use my own VPN hardware back to my house, ISP. Your thoughts, Willie Howe? So when we are out and about, we have Open VPN that we run here. And my wife has the app on her phone. I have the app on my phone. And when we are on public Wi-Fi, it is absolutely turned on and comes back to our house. Now, we're not searching for anything crazy that I think my ISP is going to flag. So for me, that's kind of a safe thing, right? Even when we were when we travel outside of the area, we're connecting back to that VPN. If I'm looking for things, I very rarely have to connect to PIA unless I'm looking for something that's not available, in the United States. As like if people want to watch Netflix and do all kinds of, it's basically media is what I'm really noticing people use that for, to get around those geo-locked regions. So, so I don't know if David was commenting on my phone, but yes, our Wi-Fi network here is called FBI_VAN. So I have a PepLink. I do have a PepLink over on the shelf, Bird, and I'm going to get it hooked up. And we were actually on the phone with a client last week, and the client was like wanting to have two ISPs and combine the bandwidth. And I was like, edge routers don't do that. It doesn't work that way. You can do load balance. You can do failover. And so like really the only way to combine that aggregate bandwidth is to have like a PepLink device or a Mushroom Networks device. And then you pay for that. And, they have, the technology where you basically go out and you connect through that. It's like software defined WAN and all that. So Odie says that he just checked his app for an update, found none, and mine still says UNMS. You know what? I wonder if it's because I'm in the beta program. So maybe I shouldn't have showed that, but maybe that's what it was. Not 100% sure on that. Interesting. All right, so we talked about, or in the title of the stream tonight, we talked about UniFi Security. And I first saw this because Riley Chase, that runs Hostify, posted this. And there's this whole write-up, and you can just Google Jade WTF UniFi, and it will come up. I'll put that in the comments. Nathan says that his UNMS updated to the new one, his app. Anyway, so Jade WTF talks about how UniFi has an improper use of encryption, talks about the contents of the inform. Now, this is not the first time that this has actually been talked about. A few years ago, there was a big, I saw the slide deck. It was like a 50-page or 50-slide slide deck that a security researcher had come up with that talked about some of the insecurities in the way the devices communicate back. And this is kind of I see this as kind of a continuation of that. So Jade WTF talks about all the things. why we should care. Reliance on symmetric encryption means that anyone that possesses the key can observe informed traffic. This traffic contains information that, if disclosed, could have an adverse effect on users of the network. Well, to say that this is never going to happen to you would be pretty dumb, because this could happen. And so there's a lot to it. And I will tell you, before we get back to this, I will tell you that any UniFi controller that I have had for the last probably year that has been exposed to the web, I have shut that down and figured out a workaround, because the UniFi controller, if it's on a network that has PCI compliance where you have to enforce that, it can't pass a PCI scan because they had some header issues. Now, whether they fix that in the new version, I don't know. I'm going to have to fire up the scanning software and get that scanned. JWTF says that the short-term mitigation is that traffic between UniFi devices and controllers should be protected by a site-to-site VPN when traversing untrusted networks. So, Riley gives kudos to Jade, but respectfully disagrees that you shouldn't run your UniFi controller in the cloud. And kind of what Riley came up. Now, obviously, Riley has a horse in this race, right? If you've been watching Hostify, they updated an insane amount of number of servers that they manage, and I like their service. I think it's a very good value. And so he comes up with this workaround. His suggestion for a mitigation, for those who are concerned about this, you can adopt your devices to a local controller on a secure network, and then do the site migration wizard to move to the cloud. Jesus. Oh my God. If I'm going to put a cloud key in, or if I'm going to do a controller, I'm just going to leave it. You know, he's a smart guy. He's a smart guy, but he's got a horse in this race. He's a super smart guy, and I refer people to him all the time. I don't like either of the options from either of them, really. Now, if I'm going to move somebody to Hostify, I am probably, if it's me as a consultant, or Riley or his tech person, will probably go through that length, you know, to protect things. This is also plausible, though. This is also plausible, doing it through VPN. So, like I said, everybody's got security problems. Let's see if we can find Hostify. Let's see here. Because it was funny because they just updated the controller to the 6.0.30, and then I commented, hey, .36 is that, right? So I've had that happen to me where I've done a YouTube video talking about a UniFi release because we thought that we were going to be stable. And in my case, it was the same thing that just happened to Riley and Hostify. Literally hours after it comes out, now there's like this emergency patch. Let me see real quick if I can find Hostify Twitter. So, so on November 19th, Hostify says we updated 1,213 UniFi servers to version 28. They've got 96,591 Ubiquity devices connected. So, 5.36 was released, so now they are testing it. And before I do anything else, I'm going to wait a week and see what else we get, because I think there were still some issues with that. All right, back to the comments. Joseph Johnson asks, are you familiar with Zero Tier? I have been looking into Zero Tier. We've been talking about Zero Tier. I've seen Tom run Zero Tier. We are going to run Zero Tier at some point. OpenSense actually has a Zero Tier plugin. So that's where we are going to do our testing. Bird says, Willie, I have a VPN that is on. My Mophie cell modem puts a static IP address on that for remote access. I love the static IP on a cell provider. Yeah. So if, and the cell providers changed that. So 3 years ago, we had to pay $500 to get a single static IP address. Now, what that also did, though, was it left the gate open for us. So new customers are probably going to have a hard time getting static IP version 4 addresses. And if you've ever had a Cradle Point or a Sierra Wireless or something like that, you know that like the cell carriers are doing like NAT on top of NAT on top of NAT, and it's sometimes kind of a mess. But yeah. Let's see. Oh yeah, GNS3. So I remember when GNS3 first started, and for those of you that don't know what GNS3 is, it's basically a program that allows you to emulate Cisco devices, Juniper devices, a ton of devices. Let me pull it up here. And when it first came out, it didn't have all of the emulation packages that it does now, right? So they actually, I know somebody that's in college, they're using this instead of using hands-on routers. But it allows you to build networks, complicated networks, without having hands-on hardware. And so that is beautiful. So if we go over to the marketplace, you can see all the things that run. I don't want to show the training. I want to see the appliances. All right, so here's a Cisco iOS VL2. FortiGate, Cisco 7200. There's a Windows appliance, Cisco ASA, Ubuntu Desktop Guest, pfSense, Network Automation, Cisco NX, Cisco IOU, Cisco 3725, another Windows server, Juniper SRX, Firefox, Cisco CSR 1000V, Palo Alto, Aruba, AAA server, Open vSwitch, DNS server. Let's see, Networkers Toolkit, MikroTik Cloud Hosted Router, Kali Linux, WebTerm, TinyCore, Sophos, oof. Checkpoint, Cumulus, Arista. You can use this. Oh, wait a minute. There's F5, Big IP. You can use this to build some dang complicated networks before you buy the gear. It is absolutely beautiful. Have you used it? Put it in the comments. Let me know if you've used GNS3. Yes, so I have to do a video on OpenSense. So I sent them a config. So if you buy the Willie House Special, it comes with a configuration on it. I'm actually going to change the IP scheme, send them a new config, and have them load that. Slight oversight where if you've got Comcast service and you plug in, then your LAN and your WAN is going to be the same. So I got to get that fixed. But I got to do a video on that so everybody knows what the username and password is and all that good stuff. Let's see. Odie said, I did want to ask if you have any feelings either for or against NordVPN. I am Switzerland when it comes to NordVPN. They've reached out a couple times. But to be honest with you, I wasn't interested in switching from PIA. So Joseph Johnson says, yes, sir, have a year or so of experience with it. Once you get used to it, it becomes invaluable. Set up our staging environment for me and 2 other engineers to test configs. We haven't had a misconfig since. So, Joseph, answer me this, riddle me this. Justin or whoever else, David, looks like you maybe have some experience with it. If I build out this network topology, and like I said, it has been years. So like when I was studying for my Juniper, my JunoS exam and my Juniper switching exam, I tried to get Junos running in GNS3, and this was before they were hugely popular, and I couldn't get it, right? So I had to get some equipment and put my hands on it. But let me ask the three of you that seem to have experience with GNS3, can I export the configs from that hardware and then import it into real hardware? Seems like I should be able to do that. And it seems like really weird that I'm even asking that, because now that the train has left the station, I got to think that the answer is yes. So let me know, would you, folks? Cajoling Technologies. Hey, where is Hostify hosted? As far as I know, it's either, I think it's on DigitalOcean and Volter, or Volter. I can't remember, but I know that they spin up VMs really quickly. In fact, let's Google this. Hostify DigitalOcean. Riley has talked about that. Yeah. So Hostify. Let's see. Except. Let's see. Digital. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's DigitalOcean. All plans include nightly offsite backups, which are securely stored on a private DigitalOcean Spaces bucket. And I'm pretty sure that Riley has had that out there, has talked about that before. If you haven't seen Riley lately, the last time I saw him live, he had a beard. Yeah, right here is where it talks about DigitalOcean Spaces bucket. And by the way, since this whole Rona thing started, I was getting just so you know, like, I refer people to Hostify, so I'm supposed to get commission on that. And I've told Riley, like, until I tell him to stop, like, take that commission that is owed to me, and people who are struggling, take that money and put it on their account so that they don't have to cancel the service. But, yeah, Joe, I don't think they're hosted on AWS, if that's what you were fishing for. Let's see. Bird says, Willie, you have to use drop-in mode on Peplink devices. They now include it on all devices that run firmware 8. Hey, Bird, so somebody sent me the Peplink for free. Can I get the latest OS for free, or do I have to have a support contract? Can you tell me that in the comments? No, I'm not necessarily down on Sophos. It's just I have configured a couple Sophos firewalls, and the VPN has been absolute garbage. The client VPN, and it was they knew there was problems, and it makes us look foolish when something as simple as a client VPN that everybody else is doing doesn't work. I'm working with another local company here. I just helped them configure. Joe, this will make your heart sing. I just got their USG4 connected to an AWS VPN. And they're talking to some other local companies, because this company's they're blowing up, and so I've got my foot in the door. I'm trying to talk them out of the Sophos, really. So there's this other consulting company, and they've come in and they've recommended Sophos for the firewall, while I'm recommending OpenSense or pfSense, and so we'll see. We would love to have their business, obviously, but let's see. Low Voltage 21 says, any thoughts on the Grandstream UCM 63XX? Ooh, do you all want to see a Grandstream 63? I'm working on a video for that right now. But do you all want to see the web interface of the 6300 tonight? Right here? Do you? I got a 6302. I've had it since beta. And I love it. Absolutely love it. Let me find the IP address on this. I think it's 174. In fact, James was working on it. And this is what we are bringing the Santa lineup on this year, which the Santa line will be released this week. So here it is. This is the Grand Stream 6302. So and I'm going to do a video on this and explain all this again, but if you haven't seen it, they've got a 6301, a 6302, a 6304, a 6308, and I'm missing one. 4 maybe? Anyway, I'll have to go back and double check those models. However, all of the new devices have heartbeat ports. All of them can be put in HA mode. So that's cool, right? When you first log in, it says emergency calling has not been configured. Click here to configure it. Now I'm going to say, I'm going to uncheck that. I'm just going to click cancel. So right now you can see we've got a trunk configured from our UCM 6202, which is my daily driver. And let's take a look at what we've got going on here. So Santa Claus is extension 1010. And these are the default extensions that were created. And did you notice how fast this thing is? It is super snappy. It's super snappy. So if we go to our extensions, so you see Santa Claus's extension 1010. Trunk, we have a peer trunk between this system and the 6202. We break down our, let's see, there's no IVR there. Can't remember how we did this. I had James basically replicate it. There's a call queue for Santa. So we will be releasing this on social media. I'll probably do a quick video for it so you can have the kids call in and talk to Santa if you let us know ahead of time. If you want the audio. Like if we have the kids, tell Santa on a message what they want. We're trying to figure out the logistics of that. But this is the 6302. I am excited about this. But look, you can see that it's got a heartbeat port right here. It's got two FXS, two FXO ports. And I think that this is going to, the main difference between this and the 6202, obviously the version of Asterisk that's running under the hood. But the 6300 series has their remote work stuff, whereas with the 6200 series, we build a VPN solution that's very solid and works very well. And for this, then you'll end up having to pay if you go with that. But I'll tell you, like the new hardware is absolutely beautiful. Yeah, UCM Remote Connect. So GDMS, you are going to be able to manage your UCMs through GDMS. And now, I can't talk a whole lot about it, but outside of GrandStream, I'm one of I don't know if there's anybody else, but I have the on-prem version of GDMS, and I am super excited about being able to host GDMS and not having to do it on GrandStream's terms. So, all right, so let's see here. I am looking at, okay, so Joseph Johnson says I can do the configs. I can pull the configs out of there. Sweet. Oh, I'm a sad panda. My hard coffee's all gone. All right. So Bob Carpenter says, I've never had any friends, colleagues, YouTube personalities say, thank God I moved to Sophos XG. I get a lot of questions about it, and I've thought about installing it. So here's the thing. Like, I need to get the whiteboard out. I need to get the headset on, and we just need to get geeky again, right? And here's the thing. Like, if you understand the way that firewalls work, and firewalls process rules and order, just like Windows has ACLs. And so if you understand that, if you just have that one basic thread, that one basic thing, if you understand how to read firewall rules and the order that they're processed in, you can figure everything else out. And it's usually from like 0 or 1 to the largest number. Now, there's usually also a default deny, which is the way that you should, live your life. I'm not trying to tell you how to live, but we should all be working on a default deny until somebody is in our ACL and we trust them, right? So, okay, Bird says yes, I can download that firmware. So maybe there's going to be some PepLink videos coming. Joe from Cajoling Tech says I was more curious about Hostify because I've only run the UniFi controller on-prem. You can run it on AWS. So I have, Joe, I have clients who start out with that free tier of AWS. They quickly outgrow it. And we've got some problems with AWS and allowing you to expand that virtual hardware. So I typically don't recommend AWS. A lot of people get Azure credits for free. Have at it. But for me, if I'm not running it on site, then I would probably run it on DigitalOcean, Vultr, Linode, one of those. So, yeah, so the UCM 6302 is, it's awesome. It's super awesome. So, and I need to get caught up on my Grandstream videos. Tomorrow, my goal is to get the office clean, get things rearranged, and start cranking out more videos because I feel like I haven't been giving you all the content that you deserve, and so I got to get back on that. SG still better than XG. I'm not sure, Sean, what you're talking about there. Hey, Russell Gunn from the land down under. How you doing? Bird says, Willie, if you need help confining I don't know if that's configuring or confining a no NAT on a cell provider can help out, I can do a live stream with you. Yeah, so I appreciate that offer for sure. So if the ones that we have problems with are devices that are not like the Cradle Points, that are not the Sierras, like when we run into like the Netgears and some of the cheaper, I shouldn't say cheaper, because the Netgear, Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, the Netgear is less expensive, but it's a really nice 4G, 5G device. But the problem that you have with those is they will only run in NAT mode, and you can't do an actual static or live routable IP. Michael asks, do you know any way to pass 802.1x DHCP from the ISP through a USG? Through a USG? No. So here's what I need to do a video about this. The USG cannot have NAT turned off at all. If you do it with a JSON file, don't ask me about it if you're going to do it and you find it, because I'm not going to answer questions about it. I don't support JSON files. No one that I know that is a credible vendor supports JSON files. Ubiquiti doesn't even support JSON files anymore. They stopped creating them for customers because it's such a pain in the butt. Go out and look at the latest UniFi release notes, and it'll tell you if you're using a JSON file, these things are going to break. Well, at least they're doing that now. They didn't used to do that. It was like rolling the dice to see what the hell was going to break if you're using a JSON file and you updated UniFi. So, it's just one of those things we stay away from. Stay away from that, man. Something else. So QNAP is like, whew. I'll tell you what. QNAP has a 2.5, and I'm going to do a video on this too, but they have a 2.5 gig adapter, and that thing's only $40. So if you're looking to get into the 2.5 gig Ethernet, that's a super inexpensive card, $40, brand new, warranty. And then I was talking to my Tech Quartet buddies, and they wanted to see the size difference between a pocket Ethernet, which, by the way, video coming soon. Nathan, close your ears. Video coming soon on the pocket Ethernet. I feel bad. They sent this to me before we moved. I just dug it out, so I need to do a video on it. But here's a net tool. Here's a pocket Ethernet. Each device has its pros and its cons. So we'll get to that. It reminds me of a flask. It probably wouldn't turn out so well if I put whiskey in there, right? But I probably wouldn't care if I was in a state where I was doing that. NetTool Pro videos coming soon. All right, so Russell Gunn says, playing with Remote Connect right now, but have issues with one-way voice. Seems to still have some bugs. That could be a NAT issue on your side. So usually when we're dealing with voice and we see one-way call path, it's a NAT. If you're using pfSense or if you're using OpenSense, something forked from one of those, usually it's because it's remapping the ports that are used. So you have to turn on the sticky ports or whatever it is so that the ports don't get remapped. I don't even think it's called sticky ports. I think that's to do with load balance. Off the top of my head, I'd have to log into an OpenSense box and check it out. But it's the same thing for OpenSense, pfSense. So basically it'll change the source and destination ports, and this kind of like makes them static. So that could be what that is. I don't know, Russell, what kind of a firewall you're running, but 9 times out of 10, when we have one-way voice, it is a NAT problem. So the Remote Connect stuff, I'll probably end up doing a video on that as well. Although I will tell you, yes, I am biased, but we on this, we very much like our solution where we are doing Open VPN, because Open VPN, we don't have to send all traffic through the tunnel. We can peel off just the voice, so you can leave Open VPN running on a cell phone. And it, when it wants to get to your UCM, that's the only time it's going to use that VPN, really, right? So it's interesting. But yeah, don't try to run a JSON file with USG. Or with Unify. It will end in nothing but heartache for you. So Bird says, have you had issues in the past with SIP Salgado? I'm not SIP Salgado. Why do I think I should know that, but I don't? It's late. Let's see here. We're gonna have to talk about that. I am having a huge vapor lock, if I even know what that is at the moment. I probably don't know what it is. So I hope everybody is safe. If you celebrate Thanksgiving, that's coming up this week, so I'm excited about that. Little downtime with the family. Nothing wrong with that, right? So here in Illinois, we went back to stage 3 Rona remediation. So all indoor dining is supposed to be halted, but we're at a point where people's livelihoods are at stake, so a lot of places are ignoring it. So, SIP ALG. That's what Bird meant. So SIP ALG, I always disable SIP ALG if I can disable it, right? So like if you're on OpenSense, pfSense, they don't have SIP ALG, right? So there are other things we tune in the system for that. The GrandStream router, a lot of the other routers, Edge router, USG, they do have a SIP ALG. ALG, the premise of that was awesome. However, it just completely, it doesn't work the way that it should, oftentimes causes more problems. So our default, when we're configuring a network, the very first thing we do, turn the ALG off. Another question that I am super excited about, Joseph Johnson asks, any multi-gig switch you'd recommend for home? Why, Joseph? I just happen to be in the midst of testing some multi-gig gear. It's like you read my mind. Did you hack my network? Did you see my working notes? I've also got some other stuff too. This is not drugs. It's much cooler than that. Videos coming on that stuff here shortly. So yes, I have a few multi-gig switches that I'm working with. By the way, there's going to be a mountain of cardboard boxes that fall over, and you're going to like see me like swimming in cardboard boxes here in a second. So this switch, so like if you just need one, so where you're going to see this switch is I'm actually going to uplink. So it's got a 10 gig. It's got 2 SFP plus ports here. So this is going to get a 10 gig uplink to the Netgear switch that has our 10 gig NAS, but also has my workstation, has another switch that has the capabilities for me to run at 2.5 and 5 gig. And then this is a multi-gig port, and you can do it either copper or SFP plus, but this will do 2.5 gig. Now, unfortunately, this only has one port, but I can recommend this. QNAP has sent me some larger switches, something that's got more density on the 2.5. I have another switch that I'm testing. I don't want to talk about it just yet. If you've been paying attention to my social media, if you've been seeing the other videos I've been creating, you've seen the switch, you've seen the model number. I just haven't talked about it yet because I'm still testing it with a Wi-Fi 6 AP. Now, the other thing that some people may have forgotten, and let me pull up the UniFi. That's not what I want. I want Ubiquity. I want to go to UI.com. Some people may have forgotten. Oh, let's go to UniFi. UniFi. Let's go down. By the way, I'm still surprised that this is supported. But actually, you know what? Gosh darn it. If I was actually thinking about... I just clicked on another one. So I was just thinking about this the other day when I was looking at the UniFi site. And I think they do some of these things to see if we're paying attention, right? But I think as you're scrolling, we will get like items that they are currently like still like making sure work great and work fine, even though maybe they've been EOL or we've got an EOL on them. And then when you get a little further down the line, let's see, this is not the site where it was at. So where was I at? I was somewhere and they had like stuff like divided and it was like other UniFi. And like some of the older switches were in there and I was like, oh, what are we doing? And maybe they did it and they've undone it at this point. But what some people may have forgotten about in the UniFi world is this bad boy right here. And I think he clocks in at about $600, $800 maybe. I don't know. I've got one. Thank you to Ubiquity for sending that out. But it's 10 gig, 4 PoE++ ports, 2 SFP+ ports, DC input, but the ports will all run at 1, 2.5, 5, and 10 gigabit. So I'm going to throw this in the mix because I have to, because I don't have enough port density right now until I pull the sheet off of that other switch. So I do have this one. If you've got this switch, and I can't remember what even like brought it up. Maybe it was on the store. Let's see here. Routing, switching. This may have been it. Yeah, right? So when you go to the store and you go to routing and switching, they've got recommended, right? So it shows all the new fancy-dancy stuff. But then you get down here to other, and you see some of the older products. And it's like, yes, we all are very well aware that these are older products. And products that don't get a lot of time, a lot of people talking about them. So are they doing something with these? Are they like trying to minimize these? You know, we'll see. I hope not. I hope not. This right here, probably still one of the best switches, the UniFi 8 PoE, because I can still do passive on it, right? Love this 10 gig switch. But this guy's there, you know, now some of the new switches are multi-gig, but this is all that I've got. I don't think I've got anything else that's multi-gig. I'm going to have to look now that we're talking about it. But I'll tell you what, if you have these Flex Minis, I need to go back and do a proper review because my video, at the time I was super excited because I run this thing off of a USB-C battery pack. It ran for days. I can do port mirroring with it, right? So I can just stick this thing in my back pocket and I've got a complete port mirror setup at gigabit speeds, right? So I've got a gigabit Ethernet tap and it lasts for days. So it's beautiful. And they're only $29. we buy these by the 5-pack and we stick them everywhere because we can power them via PoE. And I mean, we stick these things everywhere. Like these things are like multiplying like rabbits. I can't be the only one. This is one of the most useful products that they've created. I need a competitor to also create something like this so that I've got something else to use in case they decide to drop this. You say that's silly. I say that's smart thinking. All right, back to the comments. Bird says, try the new Pepling switch. They now make switches. I hope you can get it to test it. Yeah, Bird, if you've got any pull over there at Pepling, we'd love to do some Pepling videos, and it'd be fantastic. Peter says, can you do a video on connecting a domain to a Synology using Unify, if that's possible, using the internet provider? I think, are you wanting to use an FQDN? I've got a video out there about self-hosted Unify on Synology, and you could take that, you could pair it with another video, and should work out well for you. But, yeah. Yeah, so I saw Security Onion is out, and actually, speaking of Security Onion, so we actually use Security Onion in a passive, well, it's in a monitoring, but it's not in line. So we've mirrored the ports, and then we're watching all the traffic, analyzing it. I am going to be dumping that setup pretty soon and going to OpenSense in line, running IDS IPS on, it's going to be Protectly 6P, Protectly 6. So Joe asks to put my affiliate link in the chat. So that takes you over to my Amazon store. Do not feel like you need to use that link. If you do, thank you very much. But please do not feel pressured to use that. But yeah, Security Onion is definitely, oh yes, Justin Kinsey. Let's talk about the Amox switches, right? So I've had these switches hooked up for weeks at this point. I've got them pumping PoE out. I make this Twitter post about, hey, these things are doing exactly what we want them to do. And so people are making fun of me like, oh, yeah, they're PoE switches. That's what they're doing, right? Somebody comments, hey, man, I had this thing for a couple weeks. This switch died. They are going to replace it. I experienced nothing. I go, plug in the UCM 6302, and the 5-port switch dies out cold, dead. And I'm like, Whiskey Tango Foxtrot is happening right now. The 8-port, still chugging away. I think the guy on Twitter, the one that died for him, was also the 5-port. So I emailed Amox. I said, look, you want me to create this video? How do you want me to do this? Like, because like I'm going to tell you in the video that one died. That's not going to be any surprise. So I'm not going to hide that. But I'm like, hey, you want to replace this? Like, what do you want to do? So they want me at my cost to ship it back to China, and they're going to ship me a new one. And I was actually kind of insulted because they actually treated me pretty stupid. Like, well, did you troubleshoot it? I was like, replaced the power cord, change it, plugged it in a different place. Like, for an unmanaged, simple PoE switch, I did all the things, and they wanted to want me to do a video and do this. And I'm like, okay, like if you don't even think that I know how to troubleshoot a switch, like maybe we shouldn't even be doing this. So it was definitely very interesting. I don't know if they've got outdoor rated switches, but it will be in the video here in the next week or two that switch died and that whole interaction. And I'll probably just read you the email exchange, but the 5-port did die prematurely. But as we all know, all of us who work on electronics, it can happen, and that's it, right? So it could have been bad out of the box. Netgear, brand new Netgear 48-port switch. We pull it out of the box. We configure it. Everything's working fine. This just happened 2 weeks ago. Everything's working fine. Take it on site. Install the switch. It dies. It dies. It happens. It happens. But it would have been actually really interesting if it had been caught on video of that switch dying. That would have been interesting, but I am going to talk about it because you need to know, because somebody brought it up on Twitter and then it happened, right? So maybe it's a problem with the 5-port switches. I don't know, but we're going to find out. We're definitely going to find out. So it is, what time is it? It's 11:15 p.m. Central Time. I want to thank you all for being here. I hope you're all going to have an exciting week. Hope everything is going well for everyone. I hope everyone is healthy no matter where you're at. I hope you're living your best life. I'm going to go ahead and tune out. I'm going to get some sleep. Got some stuff I got to do in the morning. So I'm Willie. I want to thank you for being here. I really enjoyed this. I really do appreciate each and every one of you. Make sure you give me a thumbs up. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram. If you need IT consulting, you can go to williehow.com. Fill out that contact form, and someone will be in touch with you as soon as possible. And as always, I will see you in the next video.